Ba-da-da-dum-bum. You're a mean one, Mr. Crawford. You really are a shit. You're clammy and pasty-faced. The D&D history you erased, Mr. Crawford. You're a punk. Hey, so remember earlier today when we were looking at this video and we noticed that there were dozens of comments regarding the fact that at no point in time in the thank you does anybody mention Dave and Gary. So go through the whole video, and there's no mention of our boys, Dave and Gary. Nope. Well, if you look at the posts, because you remember earlier today when we looked at the posts, we saw multiple posts going, where is Dave? Where is Gary? How about thanking them? They're gone. Every single post that said, how about acknowledging Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, gone. They have been systematically removed. I'm looking. RPG Pundit pointed this out to me. Last person I thought would. He and I don't know. I don't know if he and I are pals, whatever. I mean, I think we acknowledge each other's existence. Whatever. But he pointed it out to me. But yeah, gone. Keep going, gone. I thought maybe they'd been moved down. Some of these date back to 5 days. Some of these date back to 2 hours. And they are all gone. Every single mention of forgetting to thank Gary and Dave is gone. And we go to the other one, the one they posted today with D&D historian John, what's his name? John Peterson, talking about the thingy and talking about his book. And he still says Gary and Dave.
It had been created and played, which they called, in that club, they called a Brownstein or a Brownstein game. And what this was, the name comes.
So he's still talking about that. Hasn't been changed. But if you go through these comments too, there's one. Looks like a lot of the comments about Gary and Dave were scrubbed from here too. So somebody at Wizards of the Coast, somebody at Wizards of the Coast YouTube systematically went through this video that was posted 5 days ago. And as early as, when did I post the video showing this? 3 hours ago? As recent as 3 hours ago, went through here and scrubbed every mention that I can find. Because right here, here's mine. And then here's the one that was right below mine. And then right below mine, there were multiple posts saying, where's Gary? Where's Dave? Where's Gary? Where's Dave? Where's Gary? Where's Dave? Gone. No mention. No mention of Gary Gygax. No mention of Dave Arneson anywhere on this video. And the other video, the one that they posted today with John, I'm looking and I know there are posts about Gary and Dave. There's one. There's two. So it looks like they missed a couple. So I'm guessing they ran a bot. Because you can still see a few mentions of Gary and Dave on this one. I haven't found any mentions of Gary and Dave on the other one. It doesn't mean they're not there. So either whoever did it didn't pay as much attention to the video by John as they did on the first video, or they ran a scrubber through it. And the scrubber was, programmed with so many different things to look for, which meant that if the terms were put in the sentence in a certain way, that the scrubber would miss it. So you will see that, at least in the video by John, there's still a couple mentions of Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax, but not as many as there were earlier today. And there's definitely none that I can find on the thank you video, which had those comments as recently as this morning when I talked about it. Wow, Wizards. Wow, Crawford. What a unbelievably underhanded, shitty thing to do. You're once again single-handedly erasing any connection the history of the game has to Gary and David as early as today. So you became aware that people were complaining, and you erased it so that there's no record of anybody complaining about the absence of Gary and Dave, which now makes me wonder about the book, because as on the level John seems to be, we got to wonder how much of the book is going to be edited to erase the legacy of Gary and Dave as much as possible, and embrace, I don't know, other people, or just simply the book is now, I mean, the book was always suspicious, right? The book was always suspicious. We always had our doubts about the history book that John was writing. People have said to me, give him a chance. The other stuff he's written is really, really good. And I'm like, okay. And then I watched the video and it's like, well, he seems to be spot on, and he seems to be reciting the history pretty much accurately. He doesn't seem to be swayed by public opinion. But then you look at the comments and like, wow, a lot of the comments have been tenuous. So, yeah. Folks lie in a permanent present just like animals do. We've noticed. No way do Wizards of the Coast follow the social media path of deleting history and trying to shape consciousness via manipulation. These people need to really celebrate the true history of the game. Well, apparently the true history of the game, at least according to Crawford, is D&D started in 2014. It has always been about Planescape, and D&D 2024 through 2027 will be further embracing the history of D&D that started in 2014 that's always been about Planescape. And that seems to be the history that they're trying to now once again force down us by erasing any mention of the David, or anybody else. Where's all the other people from the history? Where's Ed? Where's Tim? Where's Mike Merles? Where's, Odaluke and all those other dudes? Robert, Earl Otis. There's just no mention. Which again, okay, so what can we expect from John's book if they're going to go through and flush any mention of Gygax and Arneson in the comments? Right? Yeah, they're making the public, the rules for the noobs and for the copy table book for the 1970 to 1976 book that John's working on for people like me, assuming that we're going to grab it. I'm not going to grab it. I've got the PDFs. I don't need a modified version of the original rules as run through the Wizards of the Coast sieve. Because if you're going to scrub Gygax from your webpage, then we got to assume that whatever John writes and whatever we see is going to be run through the sieve. And it's going to be with all the warnings and blah, blah. And you're going to try and whittle down Gygax as much as you possibly can. So again, I mean, if you want to see somebody that is embracing the legacy of Gary Gygax and his history, check out what Luke Gygax is doing with his stuff, and check out Troll Lord Games and what they're doing with the Year of Gygax stuff for Castles and Crusades. That's probably the best way to embrace the legacy of Gary Gygax. And if you want to embrace the legacy of Dungeons and Dragons pre-2014, there are hundreds of OSR, OGL, D20 retro clones out there that are just as good, if not better, than 0, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And we're now seeing the beginning of the 5e retro clones. And I'm going to just toss this out there that probably the 5e retro clones are as good or better than 5e. And if you want to transition from D&D today and still stay loyal to 5e, I would say Tales from the Valiant, right? Because Pathfinder's not really 5e. Pathfinder's its own thing. Tales from the Valiant is probably your best bet for a 5e clone that is as good or if not better than 5e. And if you're looking for 4e, 3e, 2e, 1e, 0e, well, there's 5,000 some odd retro clones out there that you could play. And if you already have 5e, the past 10 years worth, if you have 2014 5th edition, if you've been playing 5e as it's written, you don't need to get the new books. You've already got everything you need to play 5th edition. And there's 10 years worth of third-party content out there that you could go through. You could continue playing 5th edition as it's written without ever buying anything from Wizards of the Coast, because you've got enough stuff from the DMs Guild. You've got enough stuff from Cobalt Press. You've got enough stuff from Green Ronin. You've got enough stuff from Troll Lords. You've got enough stuff from Frog God out there, plus independent shit that you would never have to buy anything from Wizards of the Coast. And if 2024 D&D is backwards compatible, then I don't need to buy anything. Right? So no matter what, this just reinforces the idea that just don't give them money. If you're looking for them to embrace the legacy, it's obviously they're not going to. Not that I ever thought they were. I kind of had hope when I saw John's interview this morning, but now I'm like, well, I don't know. Whatever John's writing and whatever we see will probably be two different things. And he probably will have to sign a huge NDA, so we'll never know what it really was, unfortunately. So the best we're going to get are these interviews probably. So watch this interview before they go in and edit it, because it is as truthful to the actual history as John can get. But I have a feeling anything we see after today probably will be run through the Wizards of the Coast sieve. And just shame on you, Jeremy Crawford, for doing this. What a shitty thing to do. Do you think people are just going to forget that they were there this morning? Thanks, RPG Pundit, for checking it out. Link down below. Wow. What do you think, guys? What do you think? Am I just blowing this out of proportion, or am I right? Let me know where you are today in this. I thought I was done talking about this today. I'm sure we will have more to say about this tomorrow. Until then, you're a mean one, Mr. Crawford. You really are.